Hello. In this session, we're going to talk a little bit about creating custom reports using WebControl's Advanced Reporting Optional Add-on Package. Okay, this is an add-on package. It doesn't come with the base install of WebControl, and like the other optional add-on packages, it can be acquired from your dealer. Okay, we need to make sure that we have this functionality, and of course we do that by choosing the drop-down and checking the About box. And I can see that I do in fact have Advanced Reporting as a optional add-on package installed. What this allows you to do is create custom reports that you can then save in the system. And these reports do a variety of things, but essentially they're going to pull data from your equipment and display it in a report format of your choosing. Okay, and we have a really nice and easy to use interface in WebControl to generate and save these reports. Now, what you do is on the Reports button, choose the drop-down and pick New Report, keeping in mind, okay, that the report you generate and then save will be on this list somewhere, okay, but only on the first floor because that's where we created the report at. It lives at the place you created at. Let me show you. I'm going to choose New Report, and with the optional add-on package, you get equipment value reports and trend sample reports. This equipment summary does come with the base version. Let's create one. The equipment values, what will that give us? That'll include selected equipment's trend, point, or equipment information. That sounds intriguing to me. Let's take a look at it. I'm going to choose this report type. Now I can pick a category, and we'll talk about that in a moment, but that would essentially put one of those categories on this list and then put the report over here. Okay, I'm going to choose none, and we'll see that the report will just live on this list, not in a category. Later we can make a custom category, and I think you'll see what I mean. Let's call this Zone Summary. Okay, we'll choose the Create button. And we can see now we can configure the report. I could change the name. I could add a category. I could change the reference name. Okay, or I can just start configuring the report. The first thing you do is you create rows. Okay, we want to select the equipment for report rows. And the equipment I'd like to work with is the conference room, the cafeteria, and the sales area. And I'll go ahead and click Add. And notice I was able to pick more than one piece of equipment by holding the Control key down on the keyboard and left-clicking with the mouse. These are the pieces of equipment we're going to pull information from when we run this report. Now suppose I wanted to move sales to the middle. I could highlight sales and click the Shift Row Up button, and sales moves. I like to leave them in the same order that they're listed in the tree, just my preference. The other thing that we can do, we can highlight alternate rows. This means when the report actually is generated, each row will be shaded differently so that as you read across, you can see the different values without getting kind of confused or lost if the report's really large. I like that, so we're going to go ahead and add it. Now you can click the Next button and start working with your columns, okay? So the rows listed vertically is going to be a list of your equipment. Now the columns are what values do you want to pull? Well, let's do something easy. Let's start with zone temp, okay? So I put my column header. I want zone temp to be displayed. How wide, the borders, the alignment, that stuff's pretty intuitive. You can mess around with that yourself. Now I need to show what type of data I want. And here's a list. Now you can check the help files to go through every single one of these, but real briefly, the point, a trend sample, a trend calculation such as the average trends, the equipment expression, okay? And these are things that are detailed in the help files themselves. We're going to work with the most common one, which is the point and the value, okay? We want the value, but you can pull units, number, expander, etc. We're going to do a common one. Now, what point would I like to pull? Zone temp, I just said that. Hopefully you were listening to me. And again, we have various ways of formatting it. Right here, we use the same one that WebControl uses everywhere else, but we could, of course, customize it. And we have the ability to change our borders. That's all you need to do for a very basic report. Let's run it and see what happens. We have conference room, cafeteria, and sales area, and we have our values. But hopefully someone notices, other than me, that there's no value for conference room. Immediately what I suspect is that the point name for conference room is not named zone temp. It's named something else. And that could be because it was engineered by a different person, or because it's being used as an example in a training video and you wanted to show some detail on a feature. I don't know. But let's go back to our design, because we can change the reports once they're made anyway. I'm going to say data is named differently in some equipment. And I'll go down and I see what I suspect to be that differently named point. And I simply checked this box and added the other point name. Now let's run it and see what happens. In fact, it has come in. So that gives you a little bit of flexibility with the report. Now, we have the report, we've generated it, and notice because it's not in a category, it's simply listed right here as a report. Now we could go back and add it to a category. I'm not going to do that, but we could simply go ahead and edit it and change the category here. Now suppose you have a report living in the system, you can navigate wherever you want. You see that it's not listed here, but since it was created on the first floor, as I said, here it is. Now suppose I want to get rid of it, that's no problem. I simply choose the drop-down list and delete it. And you can see that it's gone. Now what other types of reports can we make? Trend samples. This includes trend sample times and data for selected equipment. It's pretty intuitive. We're going to get a list, okay, of our time date stamps and the actual trend sample. Let's go ahead and create one. Again, I'm not going to create a category now, but we will later because I want to show you a little trick. So we'll call this trend samples, okay? And we'll create the report just as we did before. Now with trends, of course, you want, it's a collection of historical data, so you got to have a time range on it. Let's just say we want to look at it from the day, starting at last night to this afternoon, okay? 12 hours, just for an example. I want to show a row for every sample, but I don't have to. What I could do is say, just show me rows at periodic intervals. Let's say 30 minutes, okay? I'm doing 5-minute trending on these, so I'm going to get quite a few trends. I might just say, show me every 30 minutes. Okay? I don't want it quite as granular. Now, you either calculate the values for missing samples. In other words, if those 30-minute intervals don't happen to include a sample, it'll calculate the value based on the previous and the next sample, or I can simply find the closest sample.
Okay? Because I was looking for
now, we're not going to have to worry about that because we're going to show them all. Just letting you know that that's there. Again, we're going to highlight alternate rows because we're going to see a lot of data on this report, and it can get a little overwhelming if you have all that white space. And then I'm going to click Next. Now, let's go ahead and define our columns. We're going to have zone temp trends, and we're going to work with that. I happen to know that it exists. Okay? And let's select a trend source. Here's zone temp. Now I'm going to add it. Now notice I made an error because this zone temp trends is going to be kind of confusing because they're all zone temps. I did that purposely so that I could show you it can be easily changed. Okay? Just like so. Now I simply move to my next column. I'm editing that column. And let's say I then wanted to work with the cafeteria. I simply expand that particular piece of equipment. And we'll find zone temp, just bear with me. And notice only the trends are listed. Okay? And now I again did not name that column, but it's no problem. I'll go back. And I'll name it cafe to make it a little ritzier. And then I realize, you know what, that's enough. But I made this extra column. That's no problem. Simply highlight it and delete it. And notice I can change the columns around. Now again, I like to list them in the order they appear to the tree, so I'm going to move the cafe back, but I'm moving them by clicking these arrows. Again, I can configure all of the borders and the format. I think you get that. So let's run the report. And I have a list of them. I don't happen to be pulling any data from the conference room, but that's fine, because again, I'll go back into design mode, and I'll delete it. So again, you see how flexible these reports are, how easy they are to configure. Let me show you one more thing. I want to put them in a particular category, but I don't like the list of categories I have. These are default categories. Well, I'm going to go to the configure tree. I'm going to choose categories, report, and I'm going to make a new category. So I click add, and I'm going to name it custom trends. Okay? Now, I could go ahead and make it so there was a privilege required to access it, but I'm not gonna. Anyone can access it. Or I could make it so that only people that have privileges to be commissioners or to use commissioning tools can access it. Again, I'm not gonna do that. I want everyone to see it, okay? I'm also gonna spell custom correctly. Go ahead and do that. And I'm okay. Now this exists. I can go back to the GeoTree, look at my reports, and choose custom trends. Now that report lives in its own category called custom trends. We'll run the report one final time, and we'll see what I'm talking about. So this is what the advanced reporting package gives you in Web Control. The ability to easily generate these custom reports and save them in their system, or in your system rather, using the Web Control interface.